that we do this and did all that he could to make it happen. After that, probably the most responsible for everything is Tanya Galoni from Earth Justice. It was actually her idea to do something with this topic, and I only picked up on her idea, so I'm kind of riding a train. An amazing person. I want to thank all these organizations who agreed to come today and shed light on this issue. The idea is, this is a college, and also thank Sun Sentinel who sent their reporter to come talk to us. Thank Dr. Garnes, who is going to lead the discussion later about temporary workforce. The idea of this event is to shed light on the issue of environmental justice. Nowadays, we hear a lot about environmental problems, but we don't oftentimes notice differences when it comes to policies, when it comes to who actually bears the brunt of these changes that are happening. And the worst part of this issue is the people who are on the receiving end, or we may call it people who, under some circumstances, are suffering from these changes, are not even aware of it. So the idea that we at Broward College want to do is to be a hub where we connect a community and people who can educate on the issues. And so the first year we're doing it, hopefully next year, the same time, same place, we'll do it again, and then hopefully this will grow in an annual event. Another hope is that this will also be a possibility for all these different organizations who are somewhat interested in the issue of environmental justice actually begin to talk to each other. Because although they're very active in their areas, sometimes they sit at the separate tables and oftentimes they're not aware of what they do. So we'd like to eventually, create some sort of a platform, maybe environmental justice resource center here at Broward College. My boss is rolling his eyes every time I say that because he thinks I can't stop. But the idea is, if we are a college with highest number of low-income students, highest number of first-generation students, highest number of minority students, huge number of students with disabilities, huge number of veteran students. I mean, what other place is more deserving of this type of, you may call it institution, this type of event than Broward College? I'm happy that this is happening at the North Campus. And with this, I would now let Tanya take over. Tanya Galoni, the one that is responsible.
I just wanted to say a couple words to let you know about Earth Justice. We're a nonprofit law firm that defends the environment. We represent clients, some of whom are at this table, but our job is to be the enforcers of environmental law, because the law is not worth the paper it's written on unless somebody's there standing up for it, engaging, and demanding that it be enforced in court. We know that there are powerful interests that are polluting our air, our water every day, lining their pockets, preserving little pieces of paradise for themselves, the Mar-a-Lagos of the world. But the air and the water belong to all of us, and it affects us in ways that sometimes we don't always appreciate. It is up to us to protect those resources. They are ours to be shared, and we have a right to a healthy environment. Everybody does. But we know that certain communities are disproportionately affected by environmental harm, environmental damage, and that's what we're here to talk about today, as Mirsad pointed out. So with that, I will turn it over to Katie Kamen, who is an associate attorney with our office in Miami.
All right, thank you so much. Again, welcome, obviously, to our panel discussion. We have some amazing groups that are here today, environmental organizations, environmental justice organizations, social justice organizations, and we're really excited to have this conversation. I did just want to kind of start the conversation by explaining what environmental justice is defined as, at least by the EPA. And so I'm going to just read that definition so that we can have a little bit of a jumping off point for our discussion. So environmental justice is defined as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. And the EPA has this goal for all communities and persons across the nation. And essentially, right, the goal is that communities are not disproportionately affected by the environment, by what we're doing to the environment, which is typically what has happened. Low-income minority communities are those that are most affected. And so with that, I would love for all of our panelists to introduce themselves and talk for just a few minutes. I'm going to be on you about the few minutes. And just kind of explain what your organization does and whether or not it has a direct association with environmental justice. And if not, maybe just explain that, and we'll go from there. All right?
My name is Antonio Tovar. I'm coming from the Farm Worker Association of Florida. Full disclosure, Earth Justice has represented the Farm Worker Association of Florida suing the EPA for not implementing some of the worker protection standards, which are the laws that protect farm workers for pesticide exposure. So we are an advocacy group, a social justice group that is looking for the health and well-being of farm workers. We want to empower farm workers to be the people that that grow and decide what they're destined. So I think that we are going to have plenty of time to talk about, but we have a direct connection with environmental justice because farm workers are among those workers that do not receive the same kind, or they don't have the same kind of protection that other workers in other industries.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly Cox. I'm the staff attorney and program director at Miami Waterkeeper. We're a Miami-based nonprofit, but we also work in Broward County. And our mission is to provide swimmable, drinkable, fishable water to all people. So we are also an advocacy group and we work in watershed protection efforts. We've also been represented by Earth Justice for some of our efforts to protect marine ecosystems. More recently, we have been pretty heavily involved in some clean water related issues. How many of you heard that we had some sewage spills in Broward County after Hurricane Irma? How many of you were put under a boil water advisory? So sometimes when that happens, it impacts our communities and it unfairly impacts certain communities over other communities. So we work on those types of issues at Miami Waterkeeper, making sure that our water is nice and clean for everyone involved. We also have been working really heavily on changing rule regulations at the state level for allowable levels of toxic chemicals that go into our surface waters. So if you're going to the beach or you like to fish, you like to swim in the water, the amount of toxic chemicals from different industries that are being put into our waterways potentially is going to be changing in the state of Florida. And that's been something that we've been working on very heavily with Earth Justice to make sure that our water quality standards are protective of everyone, especially our tribal communities, our most vulnerable communities, communities of color, our children, our elderly, and so forth. Yes.
You have to turn it on.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Salome Garcia and I am the South Florida Regional Director for Oceana. We are an international nonprofit that focuses also on ocean advocacy, and our motto is save the oceans, feed the world. So on the international scale, we work on protecting our oceans from several different things, but the thing that I work the most closely with is marine pollution. So when we talk about an issue like offshore oil drilling, an oil spill, it 100% affects certain countries more than others. Oil spills don't respect national boundaries or state boundaries, and when we have this oil spill off the coast of the United States, it's not only affecting our waters, but it affects the waters in the Caribbean, it affects the waters in countries who depend on fishing and their coastal economies as a major economic driver. So we work on the international scale, and then we work here on the local scale as well. So we're working right now to educate people on offshore oil drilling and seismic air gun blasting, and how that impacts our communities and what a huge threat that is to our daily lives.
Hi, my name is Abigail Fleming. I am a fellow at the Environmental Justice Clinic. We are a law clinic that's housed at the University of Miami School of Law. So our mission is really twofold. One is to just educate and inspire young law students to get involved in this work. And then second would be advocacy and transactional assistance to low and moderate income communities who have been discriminated against by private and public actors. So that can be cities, developers, it really is two-part. We do natural environment, which is like the traditional thought, pollution, climate change, but we also do build. So anything with housing or transportation issues within those communities, we provide advocacy. So we do research, any kind of transactional typing up contracts, things like that for community members.
Hello everybody, my name is Patrick Ferguson and I am an organizing representative with the Sierra Club. And for those of you who don't know, the Sierra Club is one of the nation's largest and oldest environmental organizations, which is engaged in advocacy on behalf of a host of environmental and environmental justice issues throughout the country. My primary focus is on the Stop Sugar Field Burning campaign, which is an ongoing environmental justice issue facing South Florida on behalf of industrial scale practice of sugarcane harvesting called pre-harvest sugar field burning, which is what the industry does for 6 to 8 months out of the year before they harvest their sugarcane, and it's a process which releases roughly 2,800 tons of hazardous air pollutants each year, and the regulations currently in place ensure that residents living in the eastern part of Palm Beach County, where Mar-a-Lago is located, receive the most protection from the toxic soot and ash which is produced from this practice. However, the lower income minority communities which live in western Palm Beach County and throughout the Everglades agricultural area are disproportionately affected and received the least amount of protection from this ongoing pollution practice. So our campaign is focused right now on ending this and bringing about the burn-free, sustainable alternative of green harvesting, which I'd be happy to discuss more details later on. But thank you all for coming.
Good morning, my name is Keena Phillips. I am a volunteer with the Sierra Club, and unfortunately I am one that lives in the western part of the county that is being affected by the sugarcane burning. But what's a blessing about it, I understand that I also have a voice. And we have been quiet, my people have been really looked over for so long because we are a community that is like very poor, very dominated by a big company that hire more percentage of people working for them than any other company around. So they get to make a lot of decisions, and then people are very intimidated by standing up against this company. But I have a voice because wrong is wrong, and when that begins to impact my grandchild or my kids or my family around, and when you work in the medical field and you begin to see the impacts of people that can't hardly breathe, you got to write out prescriptions so they can get machines, or put one on a machine right then because they can't catch their breath, and seeing people that's constantly being diagnosed with cancer, there's a problem. So I'm one that have a voice. I've been on this campaign for 3 years, and I don't plan on getting off until we see a change come in our communities. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's been so awesome to hear all the great work that everyone's doing down the table. So I'm really excited for the rest of this panel. I'm Zalalem Adefris. I'm the Climate Resilience Program Manager at Catalyst Miami. Catalyst Miami is an anti-poverty nonprofit. We have offices throughout Miami-Dade County, City of Miami, and in Southgate as well. So I work on, the mission of what I do is to build resilience to climate change and environmental issues, particularly in Miami-Dade's low and middle income communities. I don't know how much y'all know, but it's not only like an income issue. There's something called environmental racism, where Black and brown communities are 2 to 3 times more likely to have a toxic site put in their neighborhoods or some sort of environmental harm. I also work specifically with Black and Latino communities in Miami-Dade County. Want to do education around the effects of climate change and environmental injustices, to build advocates, and we funnel those folks that we teach through a lot of different policy work throughout the county and different cities within the county. And then the third thing that we do is work with all these amazing partners, Farm Worker Association, We Count, Oceana, and hopefully more and more folks on this table to really kind of forward this work.
Hi, my name is Rachel Curran. I'm a staff attorney with the Center for Biological Diversity. We're a national nonprofit with an office here in Florida, the Southeast office in St. Petersburg. We're an endangered species advocacy group. We do a lot of endangered species advocation, and we work to secure a future for all species. We do that by protecting the land, water, and climate that we and endangered species depend upon. Currently in Florida, our big focus at the moment is phosphate mining. It's a little bit north of here, but in Bone Valley, that has huge environmental justice implications. It's a highly destructive strip mining practice that creates 5 tons of waste for every ton of usable phosphate fertilizer. And that waste is stacked up in what's called gyp stacks, and those are always located in low-income neighborhoods, and a lot of health effects, a lot of dust, a lot of rashes. No studies have been done, but this is a community where a lot of our members live and sort of are